The Eiffel Tower has become a symbol of love, romance, and the idea of Paris as the most beautiful city in the world. But here's the thing, none of that was the plan, because when the Eiffel Tower was first imagined, it was not meant to be romantic. It was not meant to be beautiful, and it was definitely not meant to become a beloved symbol of the city. In fact, it was never supposed to stay there at all. That's the first twist in this story, and the moment when things start to get interesting. To understand where such a strange idea even came from, we need to go back to the late 19th century, to a time when the world wasn't obsessed with aesthetics, but with progress, a time when people didn't dream of perfect photos, but of steel, steam, and technology. This was the age of confidence. Europe in the second half of the 1800s was moving fast. Railways were cutting across entire countries. Iron was replacing stone. Cities were growing at a speed no one had ever experienced before. Engineers were no longer invisible workers in the background. They were becoming the heroes of their era, the people who made the impossible possible. France, despite being the cultural heart of Europe, began to feel pressure. Britain was dominating industry. Germany was investing heavily in science and engineering. The United States were experimenting with height, steel, and the first skyscrapers. France knew one thing: if it wanted to remain a world leader, it needed to make a statement. And that statement was the World's Fair of 1889. World's fairs were not simple exhibitions, they were massive international showdowns, peaceful competitions where nations tried to outdo one another, bigger buildings, new technologies, bold ideas. Whoever impressed the most won prestige. But for France, the year 1889 had a deeper meaning. It marked 100 years since the French Revolution. 100 years since the event that overthrew a monarchy, reshaped political thought, and changed the direction of European history. France wanted to celebrate that anniversary with something unforgettable, something that would show not only its past, but its future, which raised a simple but dangerous question. How do you build a symbol of modernity? The city of Paris announced a competition. They were looking for a monumental structure that would stand at the entrance to the World's Fair. It had to be visible from far away. It had to be bold. It had to tell the world, France is still ahead. Dozens of proposals arrived. Most of them looked impressive and familiar. Giant columns inspired by antiquity, massive arches, stone monuments decorated with sculptures and ornaments, safe ideas, beautiful ideas, ideas that had already been done before. And then there was one proposal that looked different. No stone, no sculptures, no decorative walls, just structure. A tall, open framework made entirely of iron. 4 massive legs rising from the ground, curving inward, slowly merging into a single tower that stretched toward the sky. It looked unfinished, industrial, almost shocking. This design came from the engineering firm of Gustave Eiffel, one of France's most respected engineers, famous for bridges and metal structures. But here's an important detail that often gets forgotten. Gustave Eiffel did not come up with the original idea himself. The first concept was created by 2 engineers working in his company, Maurice Koechlin and Émile Nouguier. They were the ones who sketched the basic form of a 300-meter tall iron tower. To put that into perspective, at the time, the tallest man-made structures in the world barely reached half that height. Suggesting a 300-meter tower was like suggesting a building twice as tall as anything humanity had ever built. To many people, it sounded ridiculous, dangerous, unrealistic, even arrogant. When Eiffel first saw the idea, he wasn't immediately convinced. He understood the risk. He understood the criticism that would come. But he also saw something others didn't. This wasn't artistic madness, it was logic. Every line of the structure followed mathematical calculations. Every curve responded to wind forces. This wasn't designed to look beautiful, it was designed to stand. In 1886, the project was officially submitted to the competition, and it won. Not because everyone loved it, but because it could actually be built. The decision split Paris almost immediately. Engineers, politicians, and industrialists saw a symbol of progress. Artists, writers, and architects saw a nightmare. Newspapers published angry letters. Famous cultural figures protested publicly. They called the tower ugly, monstrous, and completely out of place in the elegant skyline of Paris. They feared it would dominate the city and destroy its identity. But the decision had already been made. The tower would be built, with one crucial condition: it would stand for only 20 years. After the World's Fair, the structure was supposed to be dismantled and removed. It was never meant to be permanent. It was a temporary experiment, a bold one, but still temporary. At that moment, no one could imagine that this temporary structure would become one of the most recognizable objects on Earth. No one could predict that it would outlive its critics, its creators, and even the century that built it. In 1887, on the Champ de Mars in Paris, something unprecedented begins. There is no grand ceremony, no speeches, no applause, just workers, open ground, and a project that many Parisians still consider a terrible mistake. The construction of the Eiffel Tower starts under a cloud of criticism. Artists and intellectuals refuse to let the idea go. Newspapers continue to publish angry editorials and mocking cartoons. Long before a single piece of iron rises above the ground, the tower is already being called an eyesore. But Gustave Eiffel doesn't argue in public. He doesn't fight with words. He focuses on the only thing that matters to him: precision. Because this is not a project where improvisation is allowed. Before any iron appears above the surface, the most critical stage begins underground, the foundations. Each of the tower's 4 legs will carry enormous weight. 2 of them are positioned dangerously close to the Seine River, where groundwater creates serious engineering challenges. Eiffel chooses methods that are cutting edge for the time: compressed air and massive concrete caissons that allow workers to dig and build below the water level without flooding. From the very beginning, it's clear this is not a typical construction site. Everything is calculated, measured, rechecked. A single misalignment at the base would doom the entire structure. When the foundations are finally completed, the project enters the phase everyone has been waiting for. Iron begins to rise. And this is where the Eiffel Tower separates itself from almost every other structure of the 19th century. Nearly every single component is prefabricated. The tower is not built piece by piece on site. Instead, over 18,000 iron elements are manufactured in Eiffel's workshops with extreme precision. Each part is numbered. Each one fits into exactly one place. On the construction site, workers are not creating, they are assembling. It's like building a massive mechanical puzzle, except each piece weighs tons. Special cranes are designed specifically for this project. They climb the legs of the tower as it grows, lifting iron pieces higher and higher. As the structure rises, the machines rise with it. One of the most dangerous and delicate moments comes when the 4 legs must meet at the level of the first platform. The tolerance for error is almost non-existent. If the legs fail to align perfectly, the entire project could collapse into failure. Eiffel solves this with a brilliant solution: hydraulic jacks. These devices allow engineers to adjust the position of each leg by mere millimeters until everything aligns perfectly. When the first platform locks into place, the tension finally breaks. The tower stands, it doesn't shift, it doesn't crack. For the first time, people begin to believe it might actually work, but height brings new fears. As the structure climbs higher, critics grow louder. What about wind? What about vibration? What happens during storms? Many are convinced the tower will sway violently, or worse, collapse. Eiffel responds not with emotion, but with mathematics. He explains that the tower's curved shape is not decorative. It is designed specifically to resist wind forces. The higher the structure goes, the lighter it becomes. The iron framework allows air to pass through rather than fight against it. But there is another concern, one rarely discussed at the time: the workers. Construction in the 19th century is notoriously dangerous. Deaths are common, falls are expected. On many projects, they are simply accepted. Eiffel refuses to accept that. Safety becomes one of his top priorities. Guardrails are installed, safety screens are added, workers use harnesses, a rarity at the time. These decisions slow the project and increase costs, but Eiffel insists. The result is remarkable. Throughout the entire construction of the Eiffel Tower, only 1 worker dies. For an industrial project of this scale in the 1800s, this is almost unheard of. In 1889, Paris becomes the center of the world. The World's Fair opens its gates, and millions of visitors arrive from every direction, by train, by ship, by carriage. Hotels are bursting at the seams, streets are crowded, the city pulses with energy. And at the very heart of it all stands something that cannot be ignored: the Eiffel Tower, once mocked, now impossible to overlook. Visitors line up in hours-long queues to experience it. Public opinion begins to shift. Newspapers that once attacked the tower start to praise it. Writers describe the view as unforgettable. The Eiffel Tower becomes the undisputed star of the World's Fair, the ultimate proof that France still leads the world in innovation. But beneath the celebration lies an uncomfortable truth. The tower has an expiration date. From the moment it was approved, the Eiffel Tower project assumed it would stand for only 20 years. It was a temporary structure built for a single event. When the fair ends and the crowds disappear, the question returns: what next? For many officials, the answer is simple: dismantle it, sell the iron, restore the city's skyline. After all, the tower has served its purpose. Gustave Eiffel understands that admiration alone will not save his tower. If it is to survive, it must become useful, not symbolic, not emotional, practical. So Eiffel begins a second life for the tower, far less visible to the public. The tower becomes a laboratory. Experiments are conducted at its summit. Scientists study wind resistance, air pressure, and meteorological phenomena. Eiffel invites researchers, engineers, and inventors to use the structure as a testing platform. It proves valuable, but still not valuable enough to justify its permanent existence. At the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries, wireless communication begins to evolve from a curiosity into a necessity. Radio signals are still weak and unreliable, but one factor becomes increasingly important: height. The higher the antenna, the farther the signal can travel. Suddenly, the Eiffel Tower is no longer just a tall object. It becomes a strategic asset. Antennas are installed, tests are carried out, signals reach farther than ever before. What was once dismissed as useless iron becomes a crucial tool of communication. In 1909, exactly when the 20-year permit expires, a decision is made. The Eiffel Tower will not be dismantled. It survives not because people love it, but because France needs it. When World War I breaks out in 1914, radio communication becomes critical. The Eiffel Tower plays an important role in intercepting enemy transmissions and coordinating French military operations. In the early days of the war, intercepted German radio messages helped the French respond more effectively at key moments, among others, in the period preceding the First Battle of the Marne. The tower does not win the war, but it helps France survive it. A structure once called useless proves its worth. The Eiffel Tower becomes part of Paris's identity, a landmark, a permanent element of the landscape, something visible from almost anywhere in the city, mocked by artists, hated by critics, condemned to destruction. And yet it survived every prediction, every insult. Today it is over 135 years old, still in use, still studied, still photographed more often than almost any other structure in the world.